So everyone, the 6th episode of the Magia Record anime has aired. It's a rather standard episode, but we gotta get through it to get to the good stuff later. So now we're going to see first off the review of this episode that is free of game story spoilers. If you want to see the review of this episode with game story spoilers, wait for the differences and spoilers review. That should be linked in the description down below once it is here. Now let's start with a review of the episode. First off, we see that a Meguka team, a Magical Girl team, is trying to fight some familiars and some minions of some undisclosed witch that we haven't seen yet. And they're trying to get a beat on the situation, trying to come up with a plan, but we have a new character that we're going to learn the name of later, Felicia, who just wants to run in and fight instantly and just immediately attack the witch. So she jumps in, everyone's like, oh no, Felicia has attacked, we need to do something. And everything breaks out into some wild chaos where everyone just swings around wildly, no plan anywhere, everyone just tries to fight alongside Felicia, who just jumps in and just smashes whatever she can find. And at this point we of course cut to the opening, which is still the same as always, with of course Tsuruno is in there as well, which I haven't mentioned last episode, but yes, I did say in the first episode, or even when I first saw the opening, that in the final shot of the opening they were going to add more characters to it. They did do that last episode, so I was completely right on it, I was completely correct. And they added Tsuruno to it. Soon, in some later parts, they might add more characters. We'll see about that. But first off, after the opening ends, we then see that Iroha has awakened in Yachiyo's house. For some reason, her phone is charged, and her clothes are changed. And I mentioned this last episode as well, but her hair also was braided again. So we have inconsistencies. Her hair is braided, her phone is charged, her clothes are changed. What did Yachiyo do to Iroha while she was sleeping? Let's not think about that too much, because they go down and they eat breakfast together right next to each other. Oh my god, this is not getting any better. Are we sure Yachiyo is not some kind of offender listed on some register? Don't worry about that though, don't worry about it. Don't ignore all of that, because they talk to each other for a little bit. And Iroha mentions cleansing her soul gem, because she didn't do that herself, but apparently her soul gem is clean again. And it somehow happened automatically to her after what happened in last episode. We don't really know what happened there, so instead Iroha goes, well, I'm gonna go off during my free day and I'm just gonna go around the town and do some sightseeing, because she hasn't actually gone around town yet. Every single time she's come to the city, she immediately had to fight someone. Like, remember in one of the episodes where she comes to the city and then immediately gets thrown into a witch labyrinth after she gets hooked up with a whole bunch of other people? Now she actually gets time to just walk around the city and get a bead on what the city even is. So she visits a bunch of places, and ultimately she comes to some abandoned construction site that you want to take a look up. And in that abandoned construction site, there is a new rumor that has taken root there. The rumor of the Lucky Owl Water. And I'm not quite sure what it is the characters are actually seeing here, because I'm fairly certain that Iroha herself is not seeing the same thing that we're seeing. Because to us, it looks pretty obvious that this is some rumor stuff going on here, but Iroha doesn't really seem to care that much, so maybe to her it looks different. I guess that's what I assume, because otherwise it wouldn't really make sense. So she gets hooked into the Lucky Owl Water, and right next to her we see then Felicia, who's like, oh yeah, water, look. And Iroha is like, well, if she's enjoying the water, I guess it can't be that bad. So she drinks some water as well. And they're like, cool, that was amazing, that was really refreshing. Also, I want to take this as an opportunity to tell all you guys, remember to stay hydrated. It's always very important to stay hydrated. So right now I want you guys to grab some drink, because it's really important. Then Iroha walks away, but Felicia, she has spotted that Iroha is a magical girl because she looks at her ring. Something that people should do more often is actually try and figure out if other characters are magical girls, because it's actually really easy if you can just see the ring. But she sees the ring and she goes up to Iroha and is like, yo, give me money. And Iroha's like, eh? So a witch attacks before they can resolve the situation, and Felicia is like, oh, I want to fight witches. She can't really hold herself back, instantly jumps in. Iroha is like, once again, it's been 6 episodes, and Iroha still isn't of any use whatsoever in a fight. I mean, one time she connected with Tsuruno, and another time she turned into a witch. If you want to count that as being useful in a fight, I guess, but can she like do anything herself? Can she actually fight herself at any point? Let's put that on hold for now, because before we can even process how terrible Iroha still is in a fight, Felicia's already one-shotted the witch. And Felicia's right is like, yo, I one-shotted the witch, I saved you, give me more money. And Iroha for some reason isn't like, no. She actually wants to make it up to Felicia, so she goes along with her and buys her some food, some ice cream, I guess. So they buy some ice cream, and they're like, wow, we're both the winner. They both win something from the ice cream, which is something that only happens in like Japanese regions or like Asian regions, because I've never actually seen something like this in Germany, but what do I know? So they were really, really lucky for some reason. They managed to win something. Oh, that's weird. And we know that the rumor, I'm not quite sure, I do think the rumor has told them that the water makes you more lucky than before. So after they had this good luck, we then see a few shots that are gonna happen later as well. Throughout this entire episode, from now until the end of the episode, we keep seeing shots of numbers decreasing. So for right now, we saw the number decreasing from 24 to 23, and we're gonna keep seeing shots like this multiple times. And it's going to go really far down later on. After all of this, in the meanwhile, Yachiyo visits Mitama, and we see Felicia's old team talking about how much they don't like Felicia. And when Yachiyo enters the building, it's like an old cinema of Mitama, she sees the absolute horror in front of her. That is Mitama drinking tea with ketchup and mustard. Which apparently tastes really nice, and someone's gonna try that IRL, and I don't think they're gonna start puking or whatever, but it's not gonna be very pleasant. And watch out for those memes on Twitter. So Mitama talks to Yachiyo a little bit, and before they can really talk about anything, first off, Yachiyo notices the wanted posters for Felicia, because Felicia is kind of a menace and a danger to everyone around her. Yachiyo already immediately notices that there's another person around. She notices the magic of another magical girl, and so she heads to the roof and she finds the Kyokster. So the Kyokster is here, and they just very quickly talk about, yo, Kyokster wants in on witches, and there's witches in the city, therefore Kyokster is here and just wants to fight some witches. And Yachiyo kind of, well, the thing is, in episode 1 we saw that Yachiyo kind of did have a problem with other people coming into her territory, and she did tell Iroha and Kuroe to back off. But it seems like she kind of realizes that the Kyokster is really powerful, so she doesn't kind of want to start beef with her, and she's like, yeah, whatever. I assume also that the Kyokster is not really the first person who has come to Kamehama because they want to fight more witches. So Yachiyo has realized that, well, we can't stop all of these other people from coming into the city to hunt more witches. She kind of just agrees with it. Okay, just stick to the rules. Stick to the rules and it's gonna be fine, okay? And the Kyokster agrees to that and kind of just jumps off. Doesn't really do anything else. But at least we have established that the Kyokster is indeed in the city and is hunting for more witches. So then Iroha and Felicia are going around the city, and they're having this streak of really good luck. And every time they have some really good luck, we see the number that is decreasing all the time. For some reason they also play a Magia record in universe, which just completely blows my mind how they can play Magia record, the game, in universe. Though I guess it's not really Magia Record, it's just some other game that just happens to look exactly like Magia Record. I guess that's the one way to show it, because they didn't show any character pictures or UI elements other than stuff that could belong to any mobile game. So I guess in universe it was some other mobile game that just happened to look like Magia Record. So after they have a whole bunch of good luck and win a bunch of money, and the number kept decreasing, they then eat some food, and while they're eating some food, they talk to each other some more, and Felicia talks about how a witch apparently killed her parents, and that's why she is so angry at every single witch she sees, and she wants to kill all witches. And Iroha kind of tries to get her to come along with her some more, by basically telling her like, hey, if you want to work for me, we can have some more money. And Felicia tells Iroha that she wants to work for money because in general, she doesn't really have anything else to do. She kind of needs the money from working as a mercenary in order to survive. So ultimately then they meet up together with Yachiyo and Tsuruno again. Tsuruno and Felicia immediately start bickering at each other because they seem to be really good friends immediately from just the first laying eyes on each other. They're like, man, I'm gonna, like, when Felicia saw Tsuruno, she's like, I'm gonna fight that person. And Tsuruno, when she saw Felicia, was like, I'm gonna fight that person. So they fight. Meanwhile, Iroha and Yachiyo, though, they talk a bit more about what has been going on, and they talk about the rumor that apparently they have gotten themselves into. Apparently, Iroha has talked to Yachiyo about this on the phone. We don't actually get to see that phone call quite that much, but they do reveal the information about the Lucky Owl Water rumor. And the Lucky Owl Water rumor is apparently you get to drink this water, and when you drink the water, you get good luck 24 times. But after you've gotten lucky 24 times, you then are greeted with a streak of really dire bad luck. But you can avoid the bad luck streak by drinking more water. And basically the rumor is getting people kind of, not to some degree addicted to the water, but also to some degree dependent on the water to keep up the good luck streak. Because when it runs out, you don't want to have the bad luck. So in order to avoid the bad luck, you have to keep drinking the water. However, apparently other people, not just regular people, but also magical girls, have gotten somehow caught up in that rumor and have never been seen from again. Somehow every single rumor kind of traps people to some degree. So this rumor also trapped people. Yay, consistency. So they kind of want to deal with that rumor, of course, like they deal with every single other rumor. And this is also kind of the point where we realize we're just going to repeat the kind of the same plot points that we've seen in the other few rumor arcs, where the gang stumbles into some rumor, they set up the rumor, they talk about what the rumor does, and at the end of the episode there's some sort of escalation, and then in the episode after that they kind of resolve it. But I'm going to talk more about that later. For now though, Felicia kind of doesn't want to go along with them because she's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, who cares about that. But before she can walk away, Iroha tries to get her to stay around by hooking her with money and also a meal. And Felicia kind of likes the idea of money, and she also likes the idea of food. So I guess she does stick around. She doesn't get to fight witches, but even if it's some other enemy, as long as she gets some sort of recompense, she's fine with it. Because she's the mercenary. So afterwards, they then try to look a bit more into how the rumor works. They go around the neighborhood in the area they're in, and they see that there's this weird rumor thingy that talks to other people and sort of spreads the rumor to other people around. And they're like, okay, whatever this is, it's somehow connected to the rumor, it's spreading the rumor, so we need to follow it and see where it's coming from, because maybe it's going to lead us to a rumor. But before all of that happens, they go to the rumor side and Felicia smashes the rumor. I skipped over that point because it's like a really short scene that basically just shows you Felicia immediately jumps into action whenever she sees anything that is hostile and immediately smashes whatever she sees as an enemy. And Felicia isn't very smart. I know a lot of people might say that, like, okay, Tsuruno also isn't very smart. She also rushes into action very quickly. But Tsuruno still can, to some degree, muster some amount of intelligence, some amount of instinct, and you can talk to her, you can reason with her, even if Tsuruno is really hyper and ganky, she's still reasonable. Felicia, very much not so. Kyoko also, oh no, I said Kyoko instead of the Kyokster. The Kyokster also notices all of this. We don't know what she's trying to do, but at least we know that she is indeed aware of what's going on. So then, of course, like I said, they follow the thing that spreads the rumors, and after that, they keep following this rumor spreader, which is also quite lucky that they were able to follow this rumor spreader, which sets the countdown then to 13. So going to the next episode, the counter will be at 13, maybe even lower than that if some more off-screen stuff happens. But as they follow this rumor spreading thing, they then run into a bunch of really, sorry for bumping the microphone, they bump into some really shady characters. And these shady characters introduce themselves as the Wings of Magius. They've got like these black robes. They all have this really weird speech pattern where everyone just says one word after another, which really makes them very likable and makes them seem very reasonable and not shady at all. They at least could have tried to seem more like friendly and nice and reasonable. I mean, just by looking at them, they have these robes that cover their faces. So if you have a character that has their face covered, that's already something that makes you distrust them, because in general you just distrust people who have their face covered. There's multiple of them that immediately surround the main characters in a really dark place, which also doesn't make you want to trust them at all. And then they also speak like that, which, by the way, I want to see how they actually trained that. Before they went to this place, did they go like, hey, can you say the first word and I say the second word and then you say the third word? Okay, let's train it. Uwasa, no, salvation, Wings of Magius. Okay, nice, we've got it. I would love to see that. The cool part about Magia Record is there's so many things to make fun of. I don't mean make fun of as in like it's bad and so you want to parody it, but as in like there's places that you can latch on and extrapolate comedy from. And this is one of those places where like I would really have loved to see these people like try and train how to actually speak like that. I would have loved to see that. But yeah, they talk about the salvation for magical girls somehow. They talk about how they kind of corrected Tsuruma in some way. And they say that they can, because of what they're trying to do, they're going to achieve the eradication of all witches. So they talk to Felicia like, hey Felicia, we know about you. Don't you want to eradicate some witches? Why not eradicate all witches? Like wink, 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 with both their eyes. And Felicia's like, oh my god, you're winking with both your eyes. That must mean you mean it. You mean what you're saying very seriously. And so Felicia immediately goes, I love that. I love eradicating witches. So Felicia, it seems, is going to turn on the rest of the team, or maybe not turn the rest of the team. I mean, they make it seem like that, but it seems like at least Felicia is going to join these Wings of Magius people. We don't know if she's going to turn on the rest of the team, but I mean, I call them team, even though Felicia is only really there because she wants some food and maybe some money, if she can get some money out of it. But it does seem like she will at least join these other people. And yeah, that's basically where the entire episode ends. And it ends on this shot of this burnt picture of Felicia's parents to basically drive it home that Felicia is like this mercenary orphan who needs to fight witches and somehow make money out of it, because otherwise she won't be able to eat. And she's all alone, but she really, really wants to kill all of these witches to get revenge for her dead parents. And that's basically what this final shot kind of drives home. Once again, I'm not going to talk about the end card because there's nothing I can say about the end card without it being a spoiler. So now that I've talked about the episode in a bit more detail, let me give you a bit of an overview of what I think about the episode. So this episode, once again, very similar to a lot of other episodes that were focused on setup. It's very simple, it's straightforward. There are some plot points that are moved along rather quickly and they don't really get that much development on it. Like, for example, we see this shot right at the beginning of the episode where they show us this team that Felicia was part of, and we saw that Felicia ran in before anyone else was able to do anything. She did a Leroy Jenkins, okay? I was trying to avoid that, but why am I even trying to avoid that? She did a Leroy Jenkins, everyone knows what I mean. So, because of doing a Leroy Jenkins, she basically put her entire team at peril. And you could go a little bit more into that, like what did that actually do to the team? Because we didn't actually see what bad stuff happened to her team because of that. We just saw her run in and everyone was like, oh no, panic, panic, chaos. And then in the next scene that we see that team, they were like, oh man, we really don't like Felicia. But for example, if they had more time, they could have gone a bit more into this. Like we could have seen people gotten hurt. We've seen people have gotten into really big danger, maybe almost died because of this. But because we have to move the story along, we didn't get to see all of that. We just get hints that Felicia is a menace to her team. That's basically all we get. We get a setup, then we get a cut, and then we get people talking about it, and that's basically all we get. It's enough to get the idea across, but it's not enough to get you really invested into it. Like how many anime onlys, like I don't call myself an anime only because of course I'm not. I played this game on JP version since it released. I've played this game for 3 years. But if you are an anime only, for example, I don't know how well it did a job of getting you into the idea of Felicia, of this character who really hates witches to such a high degree and is also really childish and immature that she like instantly charges into battle doing a Leroy Jenkins, that she endangers her own team. Because like I said, it did get shown in the anime that this is indeed how Felicia works, but it didn't get explored really deeply. At least it did get explored that Felicia will do anything for money and for food, because otherwise she can't really do anything. I'm going to talk more about this in the differences video, because of course, once again, I don't need to say this, but there are a lot of differences, and I will need to take this time. Like, if you're an anime only, of course, I'm not going to spoil anything to you. This is the anime only review. I'm not going to do anything like that, but I will at least tell you that this anime story is so different, extremely different from the game. Like, if you played the game and then played this, you would and then watched this, you would think to yourself, wow, they actually managed to make something good out of the dumpster fire that is the game story. I really want to make a point of this, because if you just watch this as an anime only, you won't know just how different it is, and more importantly, how much work and effort has gone into actually making sure this is a decent quality anime. Of course, like I said, it's not as good as the original Madoka Magica, but given the absolute dumpster fire that they had as the original content, able to make something that is quite decent and actually has some really good stuff in it, cannot be understated. But of course, like I said, anime onlys, they won't know about this. They will just see an anime that is pretty good, but nowhere near Puella Magi Madoka Magica, the original, and they will just say like, oh, well, it's not Madoka Magica, so whatever. But as someone who does know the game story, I'm so infinitely happy and grateful to all the people working on this, because they could have just made this a quick cash grab and just say like, yeah, whatever, just punt an anime out of the window and just get it as an additional advertisement, but they didn't do that. They put a whole shit ton of consideration, planning, and effort into making sure this anime can stand on its own, and I wanted to just say, that's amazing. I'm not really used to this actually happening, because I've seen the Kankole anime, I've seen the Azur anime. Not really worth it at all. But this is good. So now to continue on, we also saw a little bit of a quick introduction to the Wings of Magius. We saw a lot of setup in general about Felicia. We saw a setup about this rumor that we're dealing with. We saw a setup of maybe other magical girls that also exist in the city. We saw a setup of what might happen next few episodes with Felicia, maybe changing sides. So this episode didn't have that much, I would say not that much interesting stuff happen, but I mean, there is Still some interesting stuff in the way that the rumor was portrayed, in what the rumor might do to people. We saw new characters, but in the long term, this is kind of the episode that people will say, well, this episode only really exists because otherwise episode 7 couldn't exist. Kind of in that sort of way. Because if you look also back at some other episodes that we've seen, so far we have seen sort of like a duality between episodes where we always have one episode that sets up the conflict and the characters, and then the second episode will take that conflict and characters, they will play around with them and resolve the conflict. After that, we will then in the next episode once again set up another character or even multiple characters, set up another conflict, and then in the episode after that, we will then play with those characters and resolve the conflict. It's always set up, resolution, set up, resolution. That's basically how it's gone all this time with all these different episodes. And this is another setup episode. So going into this, I already knew we're going to just spend an entire episode on setup, but we need setup. Without setup, you can't have payoff. You can't have resolution without setup. So even though this episode is one of the slower ones, one of the ones where not that much amazing stuff happens, we still got introduced to a lot of new stuff, to new characters. At least one new character in Felicia got introduced to this Wings of Magius thing, whatever it is. So overall, I like that they managed to set up all this stuff accordingly. Like I said though, they could have still added a bit more time to showing you just how dangerous Felicia is to the people around her and how much of a menace she can be to her own team. But I think it still did a pretty good job at everything in general. So yeah, that was the non-spoiler game spoiler review. If you want to see the game spoiler review, like I said, it's going to be in the comments once that thing is out. And I'll see you guys there. If you want to be there once it immediately launches, hit the subscribe button. Until then, see you guys there.